Admiral Scorthol leaned back in the command chair of the Dominion flagship, his four narrow eyes fixed on the tactical hologram drifting above the bridge. The planet below glowed like a dying ember, its scattered human cities flashing in brief bursts of light as plasma fire erased them from existence. Smoke clouds spread slowly across the pale blue sky, but from orbit, it all looked like an abstract painting, distant, almost artistic. He gave a faint, almost bored click of his mandibles. Another anthill flattened, he said, voice low, guttural, the words translated automatically through the ship's comm system for the benefit of his crew. Does no one in this sector possess the will to resist? A junior officer shifted uneasily nearby, his crest lowering in the Dominion's instinctive sign of submission. The humans have filed no formal protest, Admiral. No fleets approaching, no transmissions except panicked cries for aid. It appears they lack central coordination. Scorthol's eyes narrowed with disdain. Then they are not even worthy of conquest. We do them a favor by ending their confusion quickly. The bridge chuckled softly, a chorus of dry, humorless sounds. Dominion war culture had long ago lost any sense of challenge in these campaigns. To them, the galaxy had grown tame. These minor species, bipedal mammals, reptilian tribes, aquatic hive minds, folded quickly once their capital world fell. None had been bold enough or foolish enough to resist the Dominion's expansion for more than a handful of cycles. And humanity, it seemed, was no different. Scorthol rose, his movements elegant despite the weight of ceremonial armor. We have wasted enough time here. Plot a course for their homeworld, this Earth. He spoke the alien name with faint contempt, the syllables awkward in his mouth. If their council will not come crawling, we will take their cradle and be done with it. A few officers exchanged surprised looks. Even the Dominion rarely struck at a species' origin world unless provoked. But no one challenged him. Scorthol was not known for mercy or hesitation. Within hours, the Dominion fleet left the burning colonies behind, sleek warships cutting across the void like predatory blades. The journey to Sol was uneventful. Too uneventful, some thought privately. No human ships attempted pursuit. No mines, no sabotage, not even encoded threats over open channels. It was as though the humans had simply given up. Scorthol interpreted this as fear. Others, watching in silence, wondered if it felt more like indifference. When Earth finally hung before them, blue, white, green, it looked peaceful, almost primitive. The Dominion flagship took position above the atmosphere, scanning cities, military bases, orbital platforms. What they found only deepened the Admiral's contempt. Minimal defenses, reported the tactical officer, disbelief creeping into his tone. Ground-to-orbit artillery obsolete by 2 centuries. Orbital stations unarmed. Civilian traffic fleeing toward the outer system. Pathetic, Scorthol muttered. He gave the order, without ceremony. Dozens of Dominion warships descended into low orbit, plasma arrays warming for the final strike. The first shots never landed. Instead, the Dominion fleet's targeting systems glitched, just for a moment, a fraction of a second's distortion across every tactical display. Then came the message. A single human voice, calm and almost bored, spoke across every channel. You shouldn't have come here. It wasn't shouted. It wasn't angry. It was disappointed. Scorthol frowned, mandibles flexing. Identify the source. No one could. Then the sky above Earth unfolded. Not in explosion, not in chaos, unfolded, as though reality itself parted. Behind the moon, where their sensors swore there had been nothing moments ago, 300 human warships appeared. No warning. No emission signature. One heartbeat, the orbital space was empty. The next, it bristled with battleships the Dominion had never catalogued, their hulls black and silent, weapon systems glowing faintly like the eyes of predators in the dark. For the first time in decades, Admiral Scorthol felt his throat tighten. Defensive positions, he snapped too quickly. They are few. We will annihilate them before. The human fleet fired. Not a storm of reckless plasma. not the Dominion's own doctrine of overwhelming spectacle. The humans struck like surgeons, each beam of coherent light slicing through a Dominion carrier's reactor core with unerring precision. Entire ships died without even returning fire, their crews sucked silently into the void. The human commander spoke again, still calm. Target eliminated. Moving to next. Scorthal watched in disbelief as Dominion formations collapsed. His tactical officer shouted for counterattack vectors, but their communications jammed, without warning. Autonomous drones, hundreds of them, struck engines, weapons, life support, crippling vessels without destroying them outright, leaving survivors to drift helplessly. This wasn't conquest. This was demonstration. On the bridge, Scorthal's second-in-command whispered what none dared say aloud. They planned this. Scorthal didn't answer, because the thought had already formed, unwelcome and undeniable, in his own mind. The colonies had been bait. The slow, cowardly retreat of human civilians staged. Even Earth's obsolete defenses staged. The Dominion had walked into a trap so perfectly arranged that he couldn't see its edges. How long had humanity been preparing this? How many ships had they hidden in the dark, waiting for this exact moment? Another carrier exploded in silence. Panic spread through Dominion comm channels. Squadrons demanded orders. Ground commanders screamed for reinforcements that didn't exist. But over it all, the human fleet advanced methodically, wordlessly, unstoppable as the tide. "Admiral," his tactical officer said hoarsely, We should retreat." Scorthal wanted to snap at him, to demand courage, to order a final charge worthy of Dominion history. But he couldn't tear his gaze away from the human flagship, now sliding into position above Earth like a guillotine's blade. Its hull bore no markings, no demands broadcast, just silent, implacable purpose. Retreat, he realized bitterly, was no longer strategy. It was survival. "Signal all ships," he ordered through clenched mandibles. "Break off engagement. Full withdrawal." The Dominion fleet fled the Sol system in chaos, harried by pursuing drones until even they broke away, letting the invaders escape with whatever shreds of dignity remained. On the bridge, silence settled at last, thick and suffocating. Scorthal stared at the stars ahead, his mind replaying the human commander's voice. That calm certainty, that absolute confidence. This wasn't over. No, this was only the beginning. And for the first time in his career, Admiral Scorthal felt something he didn't yet know how to name. It wasn't anger. It wasn't humiliation. It was fear. Admiral Scorthal had always believed himself immune to fear. He had seen entire civilizations bow before the Dominion, their fleets shattered, their leaders kneeling, their worlds stripped of pride and sovereignty. Fear was something lesser species felt when confronted by power they could not hope to match. Yet as the retreating remnants of his fleet limped into Dominion space, scarred and broken, that human voice haunted him. "You shouldn't have come here." Not shouted, not even angry, just absolute. A quiet verdict delivered without ceremony. Scorthal sat in his private quarters aboard the flagship, watching the battle recordings for the 20th time. The humans hadn't fought like any species he knew. They hadn't relied on superior numbers or brute force. Each maneuver, each strike, had been calculated with eerie precision, as though the entire battle had unfolded according to a script the Dominion hadn't been given. He paused the recording on a frame of the human flagship, its dark silhouette half-lit by the burning wreckage of Dominion ships. There was no ornamentation, no symbols of conquest or defiance. It didn't need them. His second-in-command entered quietly, crest lowered in the Dominion salute. "The High Council demands your report, Admiral. They await an explanation." Scorthal rose slowly, armor plates sliding into place with the soft scrape of metal on metal. Explanation. The word tasted bitter. They would want him to claim overwhelming odds, treachery, some impossible weapon no intelligence network could have foreseen. They would not want to hear the truth, that the humans had been ready, had lured them in deliberately, had made the Dominion look like reckless children blundering into a firestorm. The council chamber glittered with polished stone and banners, the air thick with incense meant to evoke Dominion glory. 12 counselors sat in a crescent above the floor, their ornate armor gleaming under the lights. They watched Scorthil approach with expressions ranging from cold fury to thinly veiled fear. "Admiral," rasped Counselor Varys, his voice sharp as broken glass, "you led our fleet to Earth. You promised swift victory. Instead, you return diminished, humiliated. Explain yourself." Scorthil's jaw tightened. The humans were prepared. The colonies were a trap. They possess technologies we have not catalogued, stealth systems beyond our sensors, autonomous weapons, cyber warfare capabilities. "Excuses," another counselor snapped, slamming a clawed fist onto the armrest. "Primitive mammals with barely interplanetary reach defeated the Dominion? Absurd. You let fear cloud your judgment." Fear. Again that word, tossed like an insult. Scorthil felt the heat rising in his chest, but kept his voice steady. "Watch the recordings. See how they fought. No wasted fire, no hesitation. This was not improvisation. It was orchestration." He gestured sharply, and the holographic display bloomed to life in the center of a chamber. Dominion counselors leaned forward as the human fleet unfolded from behind the moon, as their weapons carved through Dominion ships in silence, as communications died mid-sentence, under invisible attack. By the end, even the most arrogant counselors sat frozen, the final image of the human flagship looming over Earth reflecting in their eyes. "They knew we were coming," Scorthil said quietly. "Perhaps they wanted us to come." Counselor Varys hissed. "Why would prey invite the predator?" Scorthil turned toward him slowly. "Because perhaps we were never the predator." The chamber fell silent. Counselor Thurai, older than the rest, finally spoke, her voice low but carrying. "Are you suggesting these humans are a threat to the Dominion itself?" "I am suggesting," Scorthil replied, each word deliberate, "that we have awakened something we do not yet understand." The council erupted in overlapping voices, some angry, some afraid, some demanding retaliation, others calling for diplomacy. Accusations flew across the chamber. Cowardice, recklessness, incompetence. Through it all, Scorthil stood motionless, watching them argue like hatchlings squabbling over scraps. They still didn't grasp it. He remembered the human fleet's silence as it advanced, the cold efficiency of their strikes. This wasn't the rage of a threatened species. This was the patience of a predator waiting until the moment came to strike back. When the council finally called for order, Varys spoke again, his voice brittle with suppressed anger. "We will assemble a larger fleet. Crush them before this defiance spreads. We cannot allow weakness to infect the Dominion's image." Scorthil studied him for a long moment before answering. "And if that larger fleet falls the same way?" Varys sneered. "Then we build a greater one. Numbers will decide this." Scorthil wanted to laugh, but didn't. Numbers hadn't saved them at Earth. Numbers hadn't stopped those silent weapons carving their carriers apart one by one. After the council dismissed him, he returned to his flagship without speaking to anyone. In the privacy of his quarters, he replayed a different set of recordings, not the battle itself, but fragments Dominion intelligence had gathered on human history. The clips were grainy, some centuries old, trenches choked with gas in muddy fields, mushroom clouds blooming above cities, carrier groups dueling across oceans, tanks grinding through ruined streets. Humans killing humans with relentless ingenuity, over and over, across eras of steel, fire, and radiation. The Dominion had studied these conflicts before, amused at how savagely the species turned on itself. But now, watching again, Scorthil felt the cold weight of realization. They had been training. Not consciously, perhaps, not with foresight of alien contact, but war was in them, a constant, shaping force through their entire existence. Every weapon perfected on their own kind before being turned outward. The Dominion had conquered peaceful worlds, fractious empires, merchant republics fat with trade. But it had never faced a species that had made war the furnace of its identity. Scorthil sat alone in the dark, the glow of the screen painting his armor in cold light. He understood what the council did not. This wasn't about fleets or territory anymore. This was about psychology. The Dominion had always assumed fear would break its enemies quickly. Occupation followed terror, surrender followed defeat. That formula had never failed. But the humans did not seem afraid. And that, more than their weapons, was what unsettled him most. In the days that followed, Dominion politicians thundered about retribution, about teaching the upstarts their place. Fleets were mobilized, propaganda broadcast across the empire promising swift vengeance. But cracks began to show. Outlying governors requested additional defenses. Merchants whispered of human warships sighted near trade routes yet attacking no one, as though mapping everything. Refugees from the frontier spread stories of entire Dominion patrols vanishing without distress calls. Scorthul read every report, feeling the shape of something vast moving beneath the surface. The humans were advancing without advancing, winning without battles, unmaking the Dominion's certainty one rumor at a time. And still, that calm voice haunted him. You shouldn't have come here. The council could not see it yet, blinded by arrogance and protocol, but Scorthul felt it in his bones. The war had already begun, and the Dominion was not winning. The Dominion's grand armada gathered like a storm front across the stars. Thousands of ships, battleships, carriers, drone swarms, siege platforms, filling entire sectors with their massed presence. The Council had promised this would be the end of human defiance. Scorthul stood on the flagship's command bridge as the fleet assembled, listening to the rehearsed speeches broadcast across the Empire. Words about glory, about destiny, about inevitable victory. He remained silent. He had heard all of it before. Deep inside, where pride and instinct usually shielded him, an unease had taken root. Not fear exactly, Scorthul refused to name it that, but something cold and persistent. He had seen the precision with which humanity fought, the quiet efficiency that had turned his own fleet into wreckage above Earth. The Council thought numbers would change the outcome. Scorthul knew better. The fleet departed Dominion space in a blaze of drive flares, vanishing through jump gates in ordered waves. Their course, the Sol system again. This time no traps, no surprises, they told themselves. This time they would bury the humans under sheer weight of firepower. The first sign something was wrong came when their forward scouts stopped reporting. Not destroyed, just gone. Entire wings of reconnaissance drones blinking out, silent as though the void itself had swallowed them. Then came the sudden blindness. Communication relays dead, sensor data scrambled into static. Dominion ships stumbled forward half-blind, their formations collapsing into confusion as encrypted signals jammed even internal command networks. And then the humans arrived. Not from Sol. From behind them. Wormholes bloomed across the fleet's rear like black flowers unfolding, spitting out human warships that moved with terrifying coordination. No dramatic charges, no wasted firepower. Missiles struck engines first, then weapons, then life support. Carriers died before launching fighters. Command ships lost propulsion and tumbled helplessly as boarding drones cut into their hulls like surgical instruments. On the flagship bridge, Scorthul watched in grim silence as the Grand Armada, pride of the Dominion, disintegrated in less than an hour. The human fleet didn't roar forward like conquerors. It advanced with cold, methodical certainty, as if each maneuver had been planned years ago, and this battle was only the final page turning. Scorthul's officers shouted for counterattacks, desperate reorganization, anything to stem the tide. But the humans anticipated every move. Dominion warships jumped to fallback coordinates only to find human squadrons already waiting, as though the enemy read their orders before they were given. It wasn't only weapons. Dominion data cores went dark one by one, entire fleets losing targeting systems, engines, even artificial gravity as cyber warfare crawled through their networks like a living thing. Screens turned to static. Command AI refused to obey. Weapons powered down mid-battle. This wasn't war. This was dissection. Scorthul realized then, with a clarity that cut through the chaos, that the humans weren't simply stronger. They were smarter, faster, hungrier. The Council had believed humanity primitive because their colonies lacked advanced defenses. They had failed to see the pattern. Decoy settlements, false intelligence leaks, bait fleets, all arranged to lure the Dominion into committing everything at once. And now, everything burned. Dominion ships broke formation, commanders screaming contradictory orders as human drones flooded through ruptured hulls. Some crews surrendered. Others fought to the last. None made any difference. The human flagship appeared through a wormhole at the battle center, black hull glinting in the starlight. Its weapons remained cold. It didn't need to fire. The Dominion fleet was already finished. Scorthel stared at it across the void, mandibles tight. He felt no hatred toward the humans, only a hollow understanding settling into his chest like stone. The Dominion had ruled for centuries because no one had dared resist. Power unchallenged had made them careless, predictable, and humanity had studied them, prepared for them, constructed a war not of brute strength but of precision, of inevitability. He thought of the Council, sitting in their chambers far from the front, still imagining themselves in control. By the time news of this reached them, there would be no fleets left to command. The battle ended not with a final explosion but with silence spreading across the stars. Dominion ships drifting dead in space, reactors offline, weapons cold, crews huddled in powerless corridors awaiting capture. Messages went out from human ships on every frequency. Surrender. No reprisals. Cease resistance, and you will be spared. Some Dominion commanders refused, detonating reactors rather than submit. Others signaled compliance at once, casting down weapons before boarding drones even arrived. Most simply waited, numb, as if their minds couldn't reconcile centuries of dominance ending in a single day. Scorthul ordered no resistance when the humans came for his flagship. He stood on the bridge, armor polished, weapons sheathed, as the black-suited human soldiers cut through the airlock and poured inside with silent, mechanical precision. Their leader, a tall figure in matte armor, without insignia, paused before him. Through the visor, Scorthul saw no hatred, no gloating triumph, only a calm, measuring gaze, as if weighing not just him but the species he represented. Scorthul inclined his head slowly. Dominion pride demanded defiance, but something deeper held him still. Perhaps instinct, or something older than instinct, recognizing the predator standing before him. "I am Admiral Scorthul," he said, voice steady. "I will answer to your commander." The human nodded once. "You will. No chains. No violence. Just control absolute enough not to require either." As they led him through the corridors of his own captured ship, Scorthul passed his crew lined against the walls under human guard. None resisted. None spoke. The Dominion fleet, terror of the galaxy, reduced to prisoners without a final battle worth naming. Through the viewports, he saw human ships moving among the wreckage, towing damaged Dominion vessels rather than destroying them, guiding lifeboats toward waiting medships. Efficient. Ordered. Not conquerors drunk on victory. Something colder. Something lasting. When the wormhole opened to take the human fleet and its prisoners back toward Dominion space, Scorthul felt the shape of what came next settling around him like the closing of jaws. The Dominion hadn't just lost a battle. It had lost the galaxy. The Dominion capital burned without fire. Scorthul watched from the tower's balcony as human ships hovered above the city's spires, silent and implacable. They did not bomb, did not threaten. They simply existed overhead like a truth too heavy to ignore. Everywhere below, Dominion soldiers laid down arms without orders. Civilians stared upward in mute disbelief. For centuries, the Empire had been the galaxy's unchallenged center of power. Now, in a single campaign, it was finished. Inside the council chamber, the surviving counselors argued like frightened children. Voices cracked with rage, demands for retaliation colliding with pleas for negotiation. Some cursed the humans. Others cursed Scorthul. None seemed to understand the new reality gathering outside their walls. The human envoy entered without ceremony. No retinue, no weapons displayed. A single figure in unmarked armor, helmet under one arm, expression unreadable. He moved like someone used to command yet uninterested in spectacle. The chamber fell silent as he spoke, his voice calm, carrying easily to every corner. The war is over. Not a threat, not a plea, a statement of fact. Councillor Varys surged to his feet, crest flaring in anger. You cannot dictate terms to the Dominion. We will rebuild our fleets, rally our colonies. Your fleets are gone, the human interrupted, tone unchanged. Your colonies have already surrendered. Your communications, your gates, your weapons networks, ours now. There will be no rallying. The words landed like hammer blows. Even those who hated the humans most said nothing. Scorthul studied the envoy closely. He had expected gloating, maybe cruelty, some hint of vengeance. Instead, there was only that same cold certainty he had heard over Earth, as though humanity carried no anger, just inevitability. Councillor Thurai, oldest among them, spoke finally. Her voice was thin but steady. Do you intend to rule us? Enslave us? The envoy shook his head once. Neither. You will govern yourselves under new accords. Trade, travel, defense, these will fall under human oversight. Resist, and we end that resistance before it begins. Cooperate, and your people live in peace. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Occupation without conquest. Domination without destruction. The councillors didn't know whether to feel relief or humiliation. Varys spat the words like poison. And if we refuse? The envoy regarded him with faint curiosity, as though examining an insect trying to sting after its wings were torn away. Refuse, and your empire ceases to exist at all. Your choice. Silence followed. Everyone understood. The Dominion's age had ended, not with fire raining from the sky, but with quiet, unshakable control settling over everything like frost. Later, aboard the human flagship, Scorthul stood before the envoy again. He had been offered neither prison nor exile. Instead, the humans proposed something stranger. Governor, the envoy said, testing the title. You know your people. They will resist occupation if it comes from us alone. They will obey if it comes from one of their own. Scorthul's mandibles tightened. You want me to serve you. We want stability, the human corrected. You can provide it. Or someone else will. It was no threat. Just another inevitability laid bare. Scorthul thought of the councillors, broken and scrambling for relevance. Thought of the civilians staring up at silent human warships with a mix of terror and reluctant awe. He realized then that the empire he had served all his life truly was gone. What remained would be something new, shaped by the victors now offering him a place within it. When he spoke, his voice carried no pride, no bitterness, only certainty. I will keep my people from tearing themselves apart. If that serves you, so be it. The envoy nodded once. Nothing more was said. Days passed. Human fleets spread through former Dominion space with terrifying efficiency, restoring order, opening trade lanes, dismantling military installations before anyone could resist. No looting, no massacres. Just quiet, unstoppable control. Dominion citizens whispered that the humans frightened them more with peace than with war. On the final night before the humans departed for the outer systems, Scorthul stood atop the same balcony where he had watched their arrival. The city below hummed with uneasy calm. Above, human ships hung against the stars, preparing to leave now that no power remained to challenge them. The envoy joined him, gaze fixed on the horizon where the last of the Dominion banners came down. Will you stay to rule us? Scorthul asked. The human shook his head. We have no interest in thrones. Only in making sure this, he gestured toward the fallen empire, doesn't happen again. Scorthul studied him. You've won a galaxy, yet you sound as if you already look beyond it. The envoy's expression did not change. Because we know what's out there will look back someday. And when it does, we will be ready. For a long moment they stood in silence, two soldiers of fallen empires, one old, one new, watching history turn beneath their feet. When the human fleet finally departed, vanishing into the dark on columns of light, they left no monuments, no banners. Only the undeniable knowledge that the galaxy belonged to someone else now. Scorthol watched the stars where they had gone, a strange feeling coiling through his chest. Not hatred, not even defeat, something colder. He realized it was the same thing the Council had never understood until it was too late. The humans had not come for revenge. They had come for permanence. And they had no intention of stopping here.